Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, we're back for another episode, Patreon exclusive. And here I'm gonna show you doing a fox. I'm doing a cartoon fox. So anyway, that little thing I lifted out of the tray there, I use that to put my rollers on so it doesn't go in the paint. But here I'm showing, Nicole Beam asked about this, about the brushes being gloppy, and you just have to be sure and wipe them off like that. So that's why I kind of got a picture of me doing that. And a lot of times I just use the roller and draw on the window with the roller and lay it out, and then I take my finger and work on it. But this time I don't do a lot of foxes. They have sort of a different type of muzzle, so I'm kind of going in and drawing it out to sort of get a feel more for the character. So that's why I'm using the 2-inch foam brush instead of just taking the roller and doing this and then drawing it in there. And I could have just done that with the roller too, but again, I wanted to show Nicole Beam that using the 2-inch roller, a 2-inch foam, how I, get the paint off of it. But here I'm just kind of going in and I'm doing his ears, his eyes, the Santa cat. And I'm just doing the face of the fox too. And I want to do a cute female fox. Same with the rollers too. I go like that to get the paint out of them because you don't want it gloppy and stuff. But so I just go right over this because I'm going to redraw it, but I have memory of what I just did. It sort of gives me the feeling of it. But the rollers are great, quick for blocking and stuff. You want to just do nice, thin, even coats so it dries quick. Looks like there was some kind of little doohickey in the roller. It leaves marks on it when you have little things in it. So I'm going ahead and drawing in it just like I normally do if I had just done it with the 2 or 4-inch roller. But the fox's muzzle is more pointed, and a fox is basically kind of like a dog-like creature, more than a cat or something, even though the fox has more like big pointed kind of cat ears. But so that's why I did the muzzle coming out more rather than like a dog or a bear where it's more round. And I'm putting a little bow tie on her too. I usually put only the bow ties on the male characters, but this time I gave her a tie. Because after all, women can wear ties too, bow ties. A lot of times I always do that 3/4 view because I just think it's more appealing. It's like the Mickey Mouse look, with the hand. And then on the side of the fox, it kind of comes out almost like a cat. And then on that side, I do it too, but a little bit shorter, foreshortening it on the side. And then I had the hat kind of come down a little. It makes it look sly and actually kind of cute with the hat almost coming over the eye. It was cold that day. It was like 38 degrees. And also you can tell by the shadows too, the lighting, the sun is going down too, so you can see it there, kind of the sun. And my big mess. It's nice working outside. I don't have to worry about anything. Now here I have my Ego leaf blower again, and I'm just doing it by hand, drying it out. And added the eyelashes. She's a cutie. So yeah, again, if I was doing this on a big huge window or a big huge job with like 12 windows or something, I wouldn't be even using the leaf blower. I'd just be running around doing this, doing something else, going back and forth. Because the paint takes about 20 minutes to dry without the leaf blower. So here I did this, went ahead and did the second coat, and I propped up the leaf blower. So you can see the sun's going down. But I propped the leaf blower up on a little ladder. Here I'm making sort of an orange color for the fox. The foxes are usually, cartoon foxes are usually the same color as, say, like a basketball. It's kind of an orange but with a brownish tinge to it. So I'm creating this orange. This just looks orange. It doesn't look anything special, but it's actually got a little bit of brown in it. And when I'm mixing colors too, another thing to note is when you're done mixing it, take the brush and just put it in your water, your 5-gallon bucket of water, because you don't want to use it, because when you start using it, you might get some yellow and orange and different colors streaking. So use this brush just as a mixing brush, and then you toss it and get a fresh brush when you go to paint with the mixed up paint. So that brush I'm going to toss, and I'm spritzing the roller because I'm probably not going to use it again, but I didn't want to cover it, so I just spritz it. So you throw these brushes in there, forget about them for now till you wash them, and then you take a fresh brush, which I've done here. I've got my headway in there because I'm trying to get a GoPro shot of it, so I'm like but yeah, you can see the shadows. I waited too long in the day. It was kind of a burst of inspiration. I thought, I gotta go paint this fox. You'll find out later in the video why. So I just kind of outlined the areas that are going to be that orange color. But you can see now in this shot it looks more kind of a brown color, but it definitely has an orange tinge to it. But you can go in and you know, you do the edges and stuff and kind of outline it, and then you can fill it in really quickly. But take your time doing the outlining process. And this is all in real time too. And in this video, because it's just one thing, and I didn't want to sit there all night drying each layer and doing a highlight and a shadow and drying it and everything, I did a lot of wet on wet, which is something I do sometimes, and it can speed things up quite a bit, because I mean the actual painting process, it still takes the same amount of time as doing highlights and shadows or doing it wet on wet. Sometimes wet on wet can actually take longer because you got to kind of work at it and stuff. But then you have to balance that with the amount of time you have to sit there and wait for it to dry. Like when you do a wet on wet, you will see when I do the cap, the white part of the cap, the Santa cap, how it's kind of a lot of work. I got to work it in and work in the white, work in the teal. And so if you were doing that just by normal process, I would just take the teal and go and it'd be done. You know, just a few seconds. But then I'd have to wait for that to dry. So it's a trade-off either way. And I didn't want to wait for stuff to dry, so I went ahead and did this wet on wet. I don't do wet on wet as much as I do the regular standard process where I paint the shadows and paint the highlights and let them dry. So here I'll show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going in with a teal color. And I think the reddish brown of the fox is still wet a little, so it kind of overlaps a little. But here I'm going in with a white brush and I'm starting to blend, and I blend upwards and then I add a little more teal and I just keep going. Come back with white, come back with the teal, and I move back and forth. It's a more kind of fine art type of painting, or, you know, blendery painting. I don't know what you would call it. And so I don't do this a lot, but like I said, I wanted to just do this and have it done and not worry about it drying. Plus it looks really cool too when you do the blending like that. It gives it a more three-dimensional, believable look, kind of. So I'm just pushing the color around with the white brush, and then the teal brush, then the white brush. Sometimes I use the GoPro and I have it on my head, but I end up not using the footage because this footage is fine here to kind of give you an idea of what I'm doing. So I just use the footage from my Canon camera. See there, you can see I'm going in with some little white, and I'm kind of like daubing it, doing the highlights. Same with up here, just pushing it in, giving it a more round feel. So yeah, sometimes the wet on wet does take longer, but it is a look, it has a look to it. When I'm doing tons and tons of characters and a big giant snow scene, like say at the Littman Company Party Supply or Pets on Broadway, I sort of shy away from this. It's a time thing too. Like how much time do you want to spend? So here I'm just doing more of just a single stroke. You can see how much faster it is when you work like that. Like on the red of the fox, the reddish brown color, it's still wet. And I didn't want to sit there and dry it. I just went ahead and attacked it wet on wet. But this part, the white was dry, so I'm using my standard method of just doing one shadow. And even though the bow tie is going to be painted red, I went ahead and did some blue. I've talked about that too, like putting in blue, like if you're going to paint stuff, and then when you do the red, it changes it. Here I blended it in a little. So it's just up to you how you want to approach it. You can make it more blendery, or you can just do it more cartoony with the highlight and shadow. Again, I like doing the cartoony highlight and shadow stuff because it's fast and it looks good. Once you trap it in black, it really pops anyway. So I like doing these videos in real time for my Patreon members, because I know you guys are more serious about really learning and seeing what I'm up to. So I don't do a lot of real-time videos, at least, recent stuff on YouTube. A lot of the YouTube stuff is sped up. I'll take some of this footage, speed it up, are also, I'll take old videos and re-edit them and repost them to videos that I think are, you know, important for the season. So here you can see I'm going in with a little bit darker red, reddish brown color, and just kind of working it even though it's a little bit wet, the local color of the fox, the red color. But it's kind of a mixture. I'm kind of doing just blendery and at the same time just quick strokes too. I'm not blending it a lot, but just a little bit. And sorry about the lighting. I wish the lighting had been better. We got a lot of shadows and stuff. But you can still get an idea of what I'm doing. Now I'm just, this is actually white. I'm going in with white. And you can see that the red is obviously wet. And this is, when I'm doing this, it's definitely wet on wet more. I'm not doing just one stroke because I want it to pick up the color underneath, the wet color, and change the white. So I didn't make a Caucasian flesh tone color to highlight the fox's orange color. I just used white. So that's another thing you can do too. If you're doing wet on wet, you can just use white. And it'll blend in with the color. I'm doing a little tongue there. I should have been wearing a hat. But I do have thermals on. That's a thermal top. And I do have thermal underwear on too. Here I'm going in with the red. I do an outline to start all the way around. And then I go up and I leave a little white on the top because I'm going to fill that in with a paint color for a little highlight, so I just left it open. And I made those little points there to suggest fur and stuff coming off the top. I've been getting so many patrons lately. Wow. It really jumped. It's really inspiring and motivates me to do more and more and more. I just got a new camera too. I'll show you. This is my old camera. This sucker was so beat up. Look, it's got tape on it and it wasn't working as good as it used to. So I bought another one, this Hero 3 Plus. This is like 50 bucks. It's used. I bought this one for like 300 when it first came out, but yeah, you can get cameras really cheap now, so I'll be able to do a little bit more better shots with that one and easier to use. Here I'm going in with some red on the tongue. And feminine characters usually have small mouths, you know. I mean, her muzzle and her nose is kind of medium sized, but her mouth, the tongue and the little mouth part, you want to make it small. It makes it more feminine. Here I'm going in with white. It's all wet on wet again. So you can see the wet on wet. It does have a look to it. It's almost like I said, a more painterly look. I even did a little on the tongue too. Should put more on the tie, it looks like, but I don't know if I did. Oh, I'm drying it now, so I'm setting up the the leaf blower again. You can see it just pointing up. So I'm gonna let that dry, and then I think after this I go and get my black. I get my black and I'm gonna start setting up. But she's coming out good so far. Here I am just trimming it up, getting ready for the black. And you want to make sure this part is completely dry before you do the black. It makes it a lot better. And this is a 1-inch, this is a MAC 162 brush, and this is their largest. It's a 1-inch, but you can see if you turn it on end and you can get a crisp line, thin line. And then you can come back and you can manipulate it and build it up if it's on a lower line. The lower lines, the lines below, a lot of times you make them bigger. So now the top line on the top, it's a little bit smaller. I'm not going to go in again on that one. But the line underneath, usually make those bigger. And then that line's a little bit thinner. See how that works? And I know a lot of you use other brushes, you know, just regular round brushes and stuff, but for outlining larger areas, these flats are really good. This is the MAC 162 Golden Taklon. But you can just get really nice lines. And you don't have to do this style. This is a more kind of Disney-esque thick and thin style. Not everybody, you don't have to do that. You can have an even line. People have all different types of techniques and way they approach it. But for this type of art, I think this thick and thin line really makes it appealing. I don't know what it is about it, but it just... It's weird, the video is kind of glitchy. I don't know why it looks glitchy. See, that line was kind of thick. That was thinner. And then a big thick line. Now I think I'm going to switch up here. So I'm going to switch up my brush. I'm getting a, I think it's a 1/2-inch MAC 162. So you can see these lines are a little bit thinner. And this is a pretty big face, so I can get away with just using these flats. If you're doing a lot smaller characters and you need little finer brushes, you can use the riggers or the regular outliners. They're just they're brushes that look kind of, I mean, this is a really small one, but they're brushes that look more like this. They're sort of round, and they have a long bristles with sort of a chisel tip at the end. But here I'm just, you know, it's a pretty big character, so I'm fine using these brushes. I hope this syncs up my video narration here with the picture, because the picture I'm seeing is really glitchy. It's kind of like jumping all over the place, so I'm not really sure why it's doing that. So I hope this matches up. If it doesn't match up with what you're seeing with the audio, you'll still get the idea, I hope. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why it's doing this. Usually this happens, you know, the video is glitchy when I speed stuff up, but this is in real time, so it's kind of strange that it's glitching on my side. But maybe by the time you see it, it'll be totally smooth. Here I'm going in and doing the eyes. I just leave a little highlight. Sometimes I do the eyes with the color, you know, and the iris, and then I do a little daub for the the white highlight, but in this case I'm just leaving it like that. These eyelashes are so big I don't need to use the little fine liners. And I made her eyebrows kind of, you make them small when you're doing female characters. They're not big and bushy. But she's coming out really cute. You might be wondering why I'm doing a fox. Well, John Gaboose was watching the video along with his wife, and she was like, do a fox, do a fox. So I did some fox sketches, you probably saw them. And now I'm doing the actual fox character. And the reason I just did the face was, again, I didn't have a lot of time. The sun was going down. And I just wanted to show the personality of the fox. And also that you can just do heads. You don't need to do a whole body, and it still is really festive, and you could put magic around it, or have the character maybe showing the top part of the character holding a sign, or have them coming out the side of the window going, you know. But it came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. She has a lot of personality. And on the nose, you can see how I just left a little white for a little highlight where the nose turns, and also a reflective shadow, not shadow, but highlight on the bottom of the nose to make it have more form. This is a 1/2 inch MAC 162 also, and I'm doing the lettering. This is all just my freehand lettering. That S is a little different. A lot of times I do the S's, then I come back up and then back down, but this time I pulled it down that way. This lettering is really easy for me, and I just freehand it, and I've done it so much. I don't use a maul stick or anything. I just, after a while, your brain just knows how to do it. And I do the characters up and down too a lot, so. Maybe this could be a not a self-portrait, an animal caricature of Mrs. Gaboose. I don't know. I don't know what she looks like, so maybe she's a fox. Anyway, I hope you like that, and I'll close out. Talk to you later. Bye.